Good evening, viewers. I myself is Dr. Shivanand Gaus, a practicing pediatrician from MAPSA, and today we have amongst us a distinguished guest, my dear classmates and good friend, Professor Santosh Helekar, who happens to be originally from Chimbel near Panjim, and who happens to be my classmate in Goa Medical College. It is my proud privilege to introduce Mr. Santosh Helekar, one of the top researchers in neurosciences research in USA. Mr. Santosh Helekar graduated from Goa Medical College, and then he had a brief stint in National Institute of Medical Sciences, NIMHANS, Bangalore. After that, he migrated to USA to get himself attached to Houston Methodist Medical College and Research Center, and he has been there for many decades in USA. To introduce him briefly, he is a brilliant chap with his mind and interest in the basic sciences and especially neurosciences. His achievements and CV runs in pages, so I will briefly introduce in brief his achievements and his credentials. As I said, he is graduated from Goa Medical College, and then he joined neurosciences from Baylor's College in 1991. He has held faculty appointments in the Department of Neurology, Neurosciences at Baylor College of Medicine. He is presently Director of Translational Biomagnetics and Neurometry Program at Houston Methodist Research Institute. He is Associate Professor of Research in Neurosciences at Weill Cornell Medical College, Cornell University, New York. His primary research at present is focused on photoelectronic devices called sentiometer and qualigraph to investigate the basis of phenomena of consciousness. So his basic interest and field of working at present is consciousness. He also conducts research in various other branches like oncomagnetic devices to treat dreadful cancers like glioblastoma multiforme, a diffuse glioma with a dismal survival and life-threatening prognosis. And he has invented devices like transcranial rotating performance magnet stimulator, which is used to treat these cancerous conditions and various other medical conditions. He has published number of original research papers in various books and conferences. He is on the editorial board of Nature Scientific Reports and other scientific journals. He is a member of grant review boards of the US National Institute. He has been recipient of Minoru Suzuki Award, Baylor College of Medicine, and Louis Emma Benzac Neuromuscular Disease Fellowship. He has obtained grants of almost to the tune of 50 lakhs research funding from the US, and he holds at present 8 US device patents, and more than 20 international patents are pending in his name. With this brief introduction, we know what heights he has achieved in his field and what are his credentials. So now, after having a brief discussion on this, we would like to ask Mr. Santosh few of the questions. Santosh Bab, your research is mainly related to consciousness. So for a lay person, साध्या मनशाक, consciousness is something abstract. They don't know how to interpret consciousness. So what you feel is a consciousness?
It's not what I feel, by the way. Namaskar. It's not what I feel, it's what people who are working in the field of consciousness research have agreed to define it as. There's no clear definition, but simple dristin manlyar, it is what we experience in our head, inside our mind. So when we look at say a red rose, we see the color red vividly before us. You might also see that color red, but whether you see it exactly as red or something else, maybe blue, maybe green, I cannot tell. You cannot express to me exactly how you feel it. So you may be seeing red when I'm seeing blue, and vice versa. Even though you may not have any kind of visual defect in terms of the eye, you may not be colorblind, you may not have a problem with your brain, but you still see a vivid red which you think is red, and when I see that same color, I think it is red. Whether you and I see the same color or not, Ataparin, nobody can tell. There's no device or no way of measuring objectively what you see. So the consciousness is basically the experience you're having, not just of colors, but also other sounds, other sensations like sounds. Say, for instance, sound of a violin or sound of a bell. I experience it, you experience it, everybody experiences it, including lower animals like dogs and cats. Whether we all experience it the same way or not, nobody can tell. And the reason is we don't know what lies at the basis of this phenomenon of consciousness. Science has progressed to find explanations for many other phenomena that we see, both including life itself. We know now that life is basically biochemical reactions, energetic reactions taking place inside a cell, every cell of our body. We don't know anything about consciousness in that way. It has been the domain of only philosophy, ancient philosophies, including Hindu, Indian philosophy, for many, many thousands of years now, at least 2,500 years. But nobody understands it at a scientific level. And understanding consciousness is a big question that may have very large implications for many different fields, not just medicine, but in medicine it's very clear. For instance, person, when he is being operated, you put him under anesthesia, right? So what do you do when you put him under the anesthesia? You decrease the level of consciousness to the point where he cannot feel pain, he cannot experience the trauma of the surgery that is happening on him. So you want to know whether that person is really anesthetized, really deep in anesthesia and unconscious or not. There is no objective way of knowing that at present. The tests that are available right now are not very reliable. So there is a need for an instrument that can measure the level of consciousness. The same thing in people with brain injury. People who have had damage to their brain, they may be completely brain dead, or their brain may still be active, but they may be unconscious. You would like to know that. You would like to know that, are they clearly brain dead? Are they, how conscious are they? And whether there is a chance that they will recover from that deep unconsciousness. And so all that, in order to do that, in order to find treatments, in order to study the progress of these patients, you need to have an objective measure of consciousness of these patients. Just like we have measurements for ECG, electrocardiography, EEG of the brain. You need something that directly measures their the consciousness, and at present there is no such thing.
So, is it in the same way it has got ramification, like unless you are conscious, you don't react?
Yes.
So your reactions are directly proportional to the level of consciousness to pursue the things.
Yeah.
So आमकां समज येता तेन्ना आमी रिएक्ट जाता.
Right.
So it has got a clinical implications.
Yes.
So Santosh Babu, I am interested to know how you landed up in this topic of abstract science of consciousness. What made you go into this topic?
Yeah, so I was interested right from the first year when we were studying together physiology, understanding the basis of consciousness, because I had read about it and also was curious about who am I, those kinds of existential questions. Who am I? Why do I see the things like I do in 3 dimensions? Is there a scientific explanation for that? When we studied physiology in first MBBS, I didn't find answers to these questions in our textbook. Neither did the professors know anything. And then I quickly realized that there is no real answer. And from that time onwards, I've been kind of driven to try to figure out the scientific mechanism by which consciousness emerges in the brain. And that led to several things. I got a PhD in neuroscience in the US at Baylor College of Medicine, and moved on to doing basic neuroscientific research, on mouse brains, human brains, using modern technologies to study brain function, like functional magnetic resonance imaging, functional MRI. But it left me unsatisfied because none of those technologies was able to tell us what is going on in the brain when we are conscious. And so one thing led to another, and I got into an area where I thought, I felt I had some insight into the problem and a way to devise a new device that could detect that. The details of the mechanism that I worked on are a little complicated. It would be hard to explain that to lay people in a very short period of time. That involves mainly what is called quantum physics, and it is a little bit more involved and would require a long time to explain. But so basically, in that process, I thought of an idea of developing a device that could measure this quantum phenomenon inside the brain, which might have something to do with consciousness, and came up and actually developed the device and found out in the course of many experiments that we can actually tell what is going on in the brain at the basic level when somebody is conscious. I found out that actually when you anesthetize in this case a mouse, the level that you detect with this device is changed. You get a higher level of response in a normal wakeful animal, but when you anesthetize the animal, that level decreases. That's one thing. Another thing that we discovered was during sleep, when you go into waking and dreaming state, alternately you go into deep sleep and you dream and then go back into deep sleep, you dream. So you get these kinds of waves or oscillations of the response, and those kinds of oscillations could also be detected using my device. And so that is how we now have a full-fledged device that can measure consciousness, and there are many implications, both medical and non-medical. For instance,
so we are interested, Baba.
Yeah.
So what happens is, whenever particular new things comes into the market, what is important for a common man and grassroots level medical professionals is that how this is going to change our practice.
Yeah.
Or how this is going to revolutionize the way we manage the disease states or the problems which the people are facing.
Right.
So what are the implications of your invention in the medical field? How does it going to change the practice?
Yeah, so the first one device, which is called sentiometer, it measures the level of consciousness. As I already told you, you can track the depth of anesthesia, level of unconsciousness during surgery. So we have an objective measure.
That means आता आम्ही मनीस मेलो केन्ना म्हणटा EEG फ्लॅट जाली,
हय.
electrical activity त्यांना म्हणले. So you are is going to revolutionize those criteria, death criteria?
Yes, exactly. So whether a person is really dead or not, whether he's really brain dead or not, can be easily determined using this device.
Better way than the existing
existing
methods.
Existing method. So if a person who comes with brain injury, we will know right away whether he's brain dead or not, whether what level of consciousness that person is, and whether there is a chance of recovery to full consciousness. Okay, we will be able to monitor him in the ICU, for instance, just like we monitor the ECG. EEG.
So you will have another monitor called a sentiometer in the ICU.
ICU, exactly.
Which will help the doctors.
Exactly. And in the operation theater.
Operation theater.
Right. So that is one, yeah.
So our main problem in Goa is a lot of road traffic accidents.
Yeah.
There is something called as TBI,
Yes.
traumatic brain injury,
Yes.
where no one knows whether the patient will come out or not, and there are various ways to know.
Yeah.
The patient goes in coma, sometimes he remains for months and then comes out.
Yeah.
Will your instrument help in such type of patients?
Yes, absolutely. So we will know beforehand whether a person, of course, we have to do clinical trials to figure out whether what I'm telling you is exactly true or not. Because without clinical trial, we won't know. But the hope is that we will be able to tell precisely whether a person who is unconscious, whether he will recover completely or not, or whether he is brain dead already and there's no point, there's no hope. Okay, we will know that quite way in advance and there won't be any uncertainty left. So this is the hope that we have with this device. The same is true with in your field, where premature infants, you cannot tell whether they are conscious or not, and whether they are conscious or not might determine their prognosis. Whether they will have developmental delay, whether they will recover, they will survive. All those things we may be able to tell way before. Also, the effect of any treatment that might help them in the future to revive them and make them better, we will be able to monitor the effect of treatment using the device. So that's as far as sentiometer is concerned. There is another device that I'm developing based on the sentiometer called qualiograph. Qualiograph is a device which involves, again, a cap, like some of my previous devices, with these little devices that measure the level of consciousness at different parts of the brain, and that allows you to extract patterns from the trace, which is similar to, like, say, EEG,
like EEG
or ECG, which tells you what the person is thinking. I mean, again, we need to figure this out with a lot of experimentation, but there is a hope that we'll be able to figure out whether the person has mental issues, problems. Is he hallucinating? Is he having recurrent thoughts that are depressive, and he is in deep depression? Also, whether his mind is functioning, maybe in like demented patients, people with dementia, with Alzheimer's, with Parkinson's dementia, all these other conditions that affect older people.
So in short, your machine is going to revolutionize the diagnosis, the prognosis,
yes,
as well as therapeutic interventions, the effect to monitor the patient. So it has got a wide ramifications and applications in clinical practice.
Yes.
Tell me one thing, if you have invented qualiograph with different patterns, in criminology, will you be able to tell whether the patient is telling truth or a lie?
Yes.
Or whether he has committed murder?
Yes. Yeah, so that is the other little bit ethically challenging dimension of this device. But I'm pretty sure in future government will have to make laws that regulate this particular use of this device, because there is the potential to know beforehand. First of all, it can be used as a true lie detector, whether a person is telling the truth or telling a lie, but also whether he's going to commit a murder, and what if he has already committed a murder, a terrorist, whether he's planning a terrorist attack, and what is the plot that he has in his mind. All those things, of course, it won't happen immediately, but research done by many other people using this type of device that I have developed will lead to discoveries that could make those kinds of things possible. But it has very strong ethical implications. They have to be properly regulated by international institutions, making sure that people don't misuse the technology, because always these kinds of technologies will be misused, are subject to misuse.
So next question is, we are very much excited and interested to know when your machine will be available to use in a practice, day-to-day practice.
Yeah, this machine for medical applications, I think within the next 2 or 3 years, after we complete clinical trials, this might be used. For instance, in this anesthesia situation and brain death and coma, different levels of unconsciousness due to traumatic brain injury, those kinds of situations, probably in about 3 years, it should be available.
Have you applied for a patent to this?
Yes, yeah, we have filed for 2 patents on this device. It takes, since we have developed it only over the past 1 year, It takes usually 2 or 3 years for a patent to be approved, and we are hoping, most likely, there's no other device like this anywhere. Nobody has ever conceived of a device like this or developed any. So we will get this patent.
Just as an offshoot,
Yeah.
you have also invented another machine which is quite promising in the treatment of cancer. So give us in few seconds what it
Yeah,
is.
the cancer device, it's called the oncomagnetic device. It's a helmet where there are 3 magnetic stimulators. It stimulates the brain, entire brain, and if you have a brain cancer, the most common one being glioblastoma, we have found that it causes shrinkage of the tumor, tumor, and it prolongs the life of the patient. We have found this in end stage terminal patients so far, because FDA hasn't given us permission to use it in early stage cancer treatment. But there is a company that will be has taken over the commercialization part of the device, and they will do a multi-center clinical trial very soon, which would lead to ultimately lead to approval by the FDA for at least the treatment of glioblastoma, but as well as other cancers as well. You could use the same technology for other types of cancer, like breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, and lung cancer. Because we have in the lab we have seen that those cells of those types of cancer are killed by the oncomagnetic device.
संतोष बाब, आणि एक कॉमन इंटरेस्टिंग मनान विचार येता की कॉन्शियसनेस फक्त मनशा बाबतीनूच आहा आनी जनावरां बाबतीनूच आहा. झाडां बिडां आसता तांकांय अशें कॉन्शियसनेस लेवल आसता आनी तुजो सेंटिओमिटर तेंचेरूय वापरूं येता.
So what we have found is that we have identified a possible basic mechanism of consciousness, which involves very specific type of biological molecules which are present inside cells. Okay. Now those molecules are also present in plants. Okay. So what we have identified is the mechanism that is needed to produce consciousness. Okay. Now that mechanism we have identified using sentiometer is present in all animals, including invertebrates like crabs, clams, worms, obviously mice, all mammals. So the type of responses we see in invertebrates are different from the type of responses we see in mammals, in mice, dogs.
But you see responses.
We see responses, right? We also see slower responses in plants. Okay. Now that does not mean that plants are conscious or very tiny invertebrates are conscious. All it means is that mechanism is present in these organisms. So, but what these mechanisms do, what this mechanism does in plants is not clear. It could have some kind of consciousness type activity in plants, but it may not. But it may have applications in other areas, like, maybe plants
increase the agricultural
yield. Maybe the plants, healthier plants will have a better response, for instance. So it could have agricultural applications. I'm not going to pursue that, but somebody else who is interested in that field may be able to pursue that avenue. So, but what we have identified is, because it's such a fundamental process, as I said, in the quantum physics level, so everything in this universe involves quantum physics. So even in plants, you have this mechanism. But in inanimate objects like stones, rocks, electronic circuits, computers, artificial intelligence devices, they do not produce this response. The reason is that the particular molecule that is present, that is needed for this particular phenomenon, is not present in these others. If you take a stone, stone has only some minerals in it, not these particular biological molecules. And so anything that has these biological molecules and they behave in the same way will produce this phenomenon. It may not be full-fledged consciousness because brain has evolved, our brain as well as brains of mice and other mammals have evolved mechanisms to take advantage of this mechanism to produce consciousness, which the invertebrates may not have and plants may not have.
आणि Dr. Have you compared your sentiometer with other criteria of declaring the person dead? Does your activity ceases with the death criteria existing at present, or your sentiometer still says changes in that person?
Yeah. So this is the very striking and surprising finding we have. Even a dead brain gives you a response which is not the same as a live brain, but it is inverted response. It's drastically different from the live brain response. Okay.
So would you call that brain still live?
No. So the molecule is still active. The molecule that produces this effect is still active in these cells, but it is not producing the same kind of activity as happens in the live brain. And the reason is it is at the fundamental level. It's a simple chemical reaction that we are measuring. Okay, and only difference being that in a live person or a live animal, that chemical mechanism is harnessed to produce consciousness, which when that person is dead, that mechanism no longer works. Okay, that's why you get a response which is a basic response, which is present in plants, which is present in invertebrates, but it is not.
It's not a sign
indicative,
of life.
Sign of life or sign of consciousness. Okay, so, but what all it means is that it is a very fundamental mechanism at the molecular level, and not at any higher level of organization.
So it will open up the Pandora's box with various implications, various applications. It may change the guidelines, existing guidelines, and existing criteria. So that has been revealing, and it has been excellent research, and which is going to change the way we are going to deal with the problems. I congratulate you for such excellent achievements. We are proud of you being an Indian. So do you have any plans for India as such, for your soil and mother country? Given the right environment, right infrastructure, do you have any plans in future to do something for your country?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm one of those who look at the whole world as my as my home, right? So, and definitely, the oncomagnetic device and the sentiometer and qualigraph will benefit all of mankind, and we obviously would want it to benefit people of Goa, right? So. I have that in mind, and whatever I can do to make these devices available more cheaply to go and as well as in other Indians, I'll make an effort to do that. So that's the way I will serve. I'm not a clinician, so I'm not going to directly get involved in patient care, but I will be able to be a consultant advisor for any clinician who is interested in using this device. So. And make it available to that person.
Yeah. Thank you, Santosh, for such an excellent interview. We are proud of you. We wish you all the best in your further endeavors, and may you scale more heights and make us proud.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.